Hey, what's up, Wokers? In this episode, I hang out with a couple that have been on the Tantric path to enlightenment for decades. So, if you're into having better, more conscious sex that can lead to spiritual enlightenment, that's right, through your penis or vagina, then this episode is for you. Enjoy.
Are you ready to get woke? Welcome to the Woke as podcast with your host, Alex Lazarev.
Today, we have a very, very special guest. Two guests, in fact. And I don't even know how to introduce you guys. You guys are woke. You're conscious. This guy's an artist. You're a freaking white witch. You are tantric masters. This guy's done crazy amounts of drugs and acid and has all these crazy-ass stories. I don't even know where to begin with you two people. I just don't. So I'm just going to say, welcome, James and Rebecca.
Yes, I'm Becca Tzigani, author of Venus and Her Lover, Transforming Myth, Sexuality, and Ourselves.
And I am a work in progress, commonly known as J.G. Birthrong, and I am the painter, artist, and co-producer of the pill book of Venus and Her Lover, Legendary Passions Brought to Life. And Becca's work and my work are coordinated and collaborations of one project about relationship mythology and how to get along with ourselves as well.
Fascinating stuff. So where do we even begin with you two? I mean, I sit here and I see you guys and you're clearly still in love. How long have you guys been together?
19 years.
Okay. Well, not bad.
30, we caught each other's eyes in 1985, but not on any flirtatious or romantic level. But
so you didn't step up?
No, it wasn't time.
Because he was with someone else and I was with someone else.
Gotcha.
Which doesn't necessarily mean you can't step up, but it was just because of who we were that at the time that wasn't appropriate for some reason, and nobody questioned it or thought about it. We were just good family friends. And we didn't notice each other on a higher level of romance and intimacy until almost 20 years ago.
Okay, and before you guys hooked up, what was the backstory like? What were you doing in life at that time?
We lived in a small town at the west end of Puerto Rico, a little surfing town, so everyone knew everyone there, and her man and myself were surfers, so we went surfing together.
And his lady and I were good friends. So we hung out together. I published a literary magazine, and when I did the first edition, James was the guy I approached to do the cover. So we had a mutual respect for one another.
Yeah.
And then he left. He went traveling, continuing your project.
Right. I was already starting a project that involved living in 20 countries in 20 years in a painting self-discovery project that I called 2020 Vision. Okay. This is your life.
James went traveling on his 2020 Vision, painting and living in 20 countries over 20 years, and came back through the Caribbean, where we reconnected just at the time when I was breaking up from my 16-year relationship. We saw each other suddenly as more than just good friends, but really on a soul-to-soul level. He wanted to stay, but I said, no, you have to go. So he continued his travels, and for a year and a half we corresponded. So we were old friends. Then we became very intimate through letters. When he came back through, we then saw each other again, and then we were both ready to begin. So we began our romance. Within a year, actually it was a year, exactly a year, of sort of bumping around each other, knocking off our rough edges, deciding if we were really into this relationship. And that's when our tantric art project, Venus and Her Lover, came in. And that began an odyssey, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
And that we're still on 20 years later.
Which is about love, sexuality, liberation, Who are we? What's the highest expression of ourselves? That includes sexuality and ecstasy.
Yeah, I was...
Now, that sounds like a good podcast right there. That's the name of this podcast, what you just said.
Yeah, I'd actually gone off to write my autobiography as the last part of my 20-year odyssey of self-discovery, and it came in the form of writing letters to Rebecca. And I showed back up in Puerto Rico after sending her copies of the manuscript over a period of a year and a half. And I wanted to deliver by hand the original manuscript. So I showed up at her door with the whole manuscript, backed up a step, and was going to write whatever happened then as the final chapter, and that was going to be called Deliverance. And that's when I was going to hand her the manuscript, back up, and see what she wanted to do. Because I had fallen in love with her the night before I left Puerto Rico, and that developed over the time of me corresponding with each other, So I did that. I showed up at a door with a flower, 2 flowers on one stem, and the original manuscript, and I said, I'm here, I'm available, and I'm also ready to leave right now to Costa Rica because I can take the love that I already feel from you with me, and I don't need any more than that. And she said, you don't need me? And I said, no.
Which was very important for me, because I don't want anyone clinging to me, because if I'm not there, their life falls apart. I needed an independent, strong man.
And I didn't want to be needed either. And I appreciated all that, and I appreciated myself enough to be confident in myself that I didn't have to have a woman or a partner with me. I was ready to leave, and she said, well, what do you want? And without even thinking about it, I said everything, and that was all it took. Of course, she didn't realize that also meant she was going to have to take everything from me.
Yeah, I really didn't read the fine print there.
Yeah, but that was the perfect answer because I didn't think about it. What do you want? Well, everything. This meant I was ready to give myself into a relationship entirely to this beautiful woman that I'd never thought about like this for 15 years before. So that was all it took, and then the year of us learning each other and learning to drop certain things away and falling in love for real happened.
So I've heard some of your crazy stories of slaggery, of just being an absolute whore.
A big what?
A big whore.
No,
That's
no.
you. That's what I heard. That's
Well,
the rumors on the street in town. You used to just whip it out at
Well,
parties and people
I have
put it
a
in people's
persona.
mouths and
I have a
stuff.
persona that people misunderstand, of course, because I basically kiss almost every woman on the street.
Well, you're not the only one.
Yeah, right? And
But the question was, I actually heard a rumor that you were not always so confident with the ladies. Is that true?
well, I'm still shy. Yes, I was brought up. I came into this life pretty much in a realm of difficulty. I was physically deformed in a number of ways. They wouldn't even give me to my mother right away when I was popped out of the womb. And I experienced a lot of surgeries and pain, and I guess it turned me sensitive when I was a little boy in the 3rd grade selling milk as the milk monitor during recess, collecting the nickel for a carton of milk. I looked out there and I didn't feel like I belonged. And I was made fun of by my peers all through my formative years, and it turned me more or less introverted. So I became the life of the party, which usually is the character who is the most shy. Because it was so hard on me, I guess I naturally gravitated towards the feminine, starting with my mother, of course, and probably after that my sister, my grandmother. But my father was a hard military drill instructor type, yes sir, no sir. So it was really easy for me to gravitate towards the feminine. So I started out very young, loving the feminine because it was soft, it was nurturing, and caring, and not hard. So I've always had an appreciation for the feminine. And when I got old enough to start thinking about getting intimate with women, I didn't do it like all the boys did around me who, basically would say, hey, let's go pick up a chick and see if we get lucky. And, go try to just hustle a chick for the sake of getting off, getting sex, kissing, whatever. I was too shy to do that. I had already developed a certain amount of admiration, which conjured up a respect that set me aside from all of my normal friends out there, if you want to call them normal. I think I was actually the most normal out of them because I couldn't do that. I couldn't approach a woman with a preconceived notion to score, if you know what I mean. So somehow that has evolved into my adulthood as being someone who approaches a female basically honestly, naturally, and when there's an attraction, I may say so, but even in our photo sessions and our workshops with Venus and her lover and all the production that took, we all, I initiated, let's have the woman initiate the first moves and have the men appreciate. And somehow that really made doing all that work much easier.
I just want to give some explanation that the art of Venus and her lover, which you can see on our website, venusandherlover.com, is erotic art. And even though, of course, they were all painted by James, they are based on photography. So all the erotic scenes really happened. So people were gravitating toward our project because we were giving art shows showing this erotic art. People were coming up to us and saying, wow, I really want to participate in your project. And then we recognized, wow, okay, we've got other people who want to be in this. So we had to really get very real. If we're going to get naked with people
and sexy
with people, we have to be able to connect heart to heart. So I'm a natural ceremonialist because of my years of spiritual practice. And so I set up a ceremony that we did where we essentially made commitments to each other. It was like marriage for a day, where we said, we stated what our highest aspirations were, that sex and pleasure could be accepted in our society. The ritual would take maybe an hour and a half. No one had to do anything that they
We set
didn't
boundaries.
Want to.
We didn't use drugs or alcohol of any kind. It was very straight up, and it was a hero's gamut. It's a sacred marriage, and there's no limit to how long or short that kind of marriage has to be. It can be for 1 hour, it can be for 1 year, it doesn't matter.
So we started with a puja, a ritual, a tantric ritual, and then began sexual exploration, sensual exploration with one another, and then became more sexual with photographers present. And that imagery that was captured into photographs became the basis of the paintings which James later painted. So I just wanted to say, when he's talking about photo shoots, that's what he was referring to.
Yeah, and they started out very spontaneously, and then as the imagery came forward after years of doing it by process of elimination, and we started to figure out what was lacking, what we needed, so we would get more orchestrating in the production of, we need this kind of a scene, we need Kali, we need Green Man, we need Pan, because we already have so many others.
Mythological characters.
Yeah, mythological characters from traditions all over the world. And all of this lends itself to the credibility of the project. The energy, the eroticism, and the whole imagery is all very real, which gives it complete credibility. It's not the imagination of two artists coming up with a good idea to do something. This all happened to us and then through us naturally, because we are so open to it, and we both have explored traditions all over the world beforehand.
So you were already, as it were, into this stuff before you guys even started exploring with each other?
She was into Tantra before. She not taught me, but she introduced me to Tantra, and I learned it in participating with her. the basics for it. And Tantra can be practiced in a non-sexual way, a solo way, or with partners as you wish, because it's the whole idea of Tantra is to come to the realization that everything is connected. So you can do that through a sex act, and you can do it without having a sex act. You can do it through meditation.
But how did you take the leap from this shy, awkward, funny-looking guy who didn't want to score with babes to this tantric art project that welcomes in all kinds of sexual experience? That's a huge amount of ground to cover.
Well, I have to say, I don't know if you know if the audience is familiar with the background of Venus and Mars, but Mars was smitten by Venus. She counseled him in matters of war even, and he never said no to her. And Rebecca is my Venus. So when Rebecca came into my life at that level in intimacy and relationship and love, that opened me up to the whole world. I didn't feel like I'd had sex before I had sex with Rebecca, and that was when I was 50 years old.
Worth waiting for.
I always like to save the best for last.
That is some good poon poon.
So, and I was a natural. I was doing the so-called right thing on the sexual type of Tantra, as if I'd studied it for years, evidently. And even one of our models in our work that participated with us grew up in a tantric ashram, and she said I was a natural and I'd done this before in another lifetime, just from meeting me. So I guess I had the propensity. And I just really, to me, there's nothing better than intimacy with a woman, although I won't take away gay and lesbian experience and all of that. But for me, nothing beats contact on that level, spiritual and physical, with a woman. There's nothing like it in the world.
And I would say the main role that I played was that I simply gave you permission to just be your full self. Because our society has programmed us to damp it down, stuff it, suppress it, don't show it, because someone might make fun of you. Or
I would say the society gets us to not acknowledge or suppress the real deeper stuff, the love, the connection, the things that can lead to joy and spiritual enlightenment. The pornography and the fucking and the sex and the tits, that's everywhere, but that's not it.
That's
you see,
right.
And they want us watching the porn and doing all this, the quick fixes, masturbating and all this kind of stuff, which isn't going to lead to any real joyous connection with a partner or with yourself or with the divine. So that stuff's out there, but what we're talking about is almost sacred knowledge to this day. Even though it's out there, it's not really out there in the public consciousness.
That's
and this
right.
is the depth.
No,
this is the good
you're
stuff
right.
that we want to talk about.
It's not. And the difference between porn and tantric loving is porn is the absence of love, and tantric loving is the inclusion of love. And to us, love is never wrong. So we drop the possession part, we drop the jealousy part, and it turns into an open communication forum, and that's what makes it work. And if you're with a primary partner and you are in an open relationship, as we are, we basically agree to tell each other when something is coming up, when it gets serious to the part of having sexual intimacy. And if one of us says, I don't really like that person, we will not do it, because we both will have to agree with whoever we're being intimate with on that level.
because the energy that you share with someone sexually it's a mixing of an integration of two energy fields, and then you both are carrying that. So if we have invite another lover into our relationship, we're all sharing the same energy field. So we just like it to be clean. And I'd just like to make a comment about pornography, because there's, the sexual desire and the sexual impulse is something that's natural. pornography, what I see that it does, as opposed to erotica, like we consider our art erotica, pornography is more about taking that sexual energy and throwing it away. Whereas the tantric approach is, yes, feel arousal. Now, circulate that energy. That's why tantra can be practiced with one person. You can do it yourself, circulating the energy. In fact, Taoist tantra is really seen as a healing technique, that you channel sexual energy into, like if you have a liver problem, you use it to heal your liver or your kidneys or, whatever it is, because it's life force energy. So being able to circulate the energy for your own benefit, that's one way of practicing Tantra. And then imagine doubling that with a partner so that you're both circulating your energy, using it for healing, and not only healing, but merging our energy fields, we get a huge amount of knowledge. And then you go to ecstatic levels of feeling what it's like when you're not just a physical body, but your etheric body is in the act. And so you're just naturally, your aura is bigger than your physical body. So you have that much more of your energy that's engaged. Whereas what pornography does is it keeps it in the physical and it centers it into the genitals. And as you build up energy there, then it throws the energy away. Now we could get in another discussion into what happens with that thrown away energy, because certainly there's enough evidence out there that there are beings who are feeding on it. But I don't want to get too far afield.
And this attitude and approach makes, having multiple lovers possible, because it's that kind of cleanness. And, to me, when dogma says, on the first page, it talks all about the shame and the guilt and the punishment of sexuality, that means just the opposite is what we should be doing, because the ones that come in with the fear and the threat and the punishment, we should just take whatever they say and go the opposite direction, and then we're on to the truth, because they want control. And when we are talking about Tantra, which is much more than just an act of sexual expression, then we are free. And that is what puts the purveyors of dogma out of business.
Yes, because then
we're not slaves.
We realize that we are divine. And they know that if we all recognize our own power and divinity, we don't need a priest, we don't need a pope, we don't need a president, we don't need a government, we don't need any religious institution.
We don't need police.
We're self-sourcing then. And for those who are in the business of control, they got to grab our sexual energy and they want to control it. So I see Tantra as not only an experience of ecstasy and a process of liberation, but it's an act of revolution, living in a dominator system that just wants to control us.
And so to get back to your original question, learning all this by being with a woman who is the most perfect candidate I've ever known to share and express this aspect of Tantra has turned me into an expansive, transcending kind of a guy. And this is what has opened me up to being able to approach the feminine on a level beyond just seeking comfort, because I'm a hurt little kid. So I'm not shy, and I still, though, will not make the first move, because I think men don't realize what they're missing out on, and even women don't realize what they're missing out on when we don't let the woman make the first move and dictate the whole experience. Because if we please the woman, she will return us with pleasure and ecstatic experiences that would otherwise never happen. You don't know making love until a woman makes love to you. It's not about you going to the races and getting your nuts off and being the first one on the block to go, wow, that was great. How was it for you? You don't have a fucking clue. You get a woman off 3 or 4 times and then let her come at you, you're going to experience a whole new universe. That's my experience anyway.
Yeah.
And a lot of women are attracted to that.
That's why in Tantra, if you look at traditional, let's say, Hindu Tantra, you'll see there's an adoration of the goddess. Now, in Venus Center Lover, we're not advocating worship of any deity because we believe the whole experience is finding the divine within and expressing that.
And we actually come around to transcending the deities because
Right.
they are our creation.
Nonetheless, in the Hindu tradition, there's the focal point is the goddess. Now, why is that? Because if we just look at the sex act, the feminine, the female, has a much slower rate of arousal. The masculine, the man, and the masculine energy is like straight to the point, right?
Boing.
Yeah, and so his arousal is much faster. And so in tantric practice, the lovers know that they are going to honor the feminine first. And it doesn't matter how so-called slow it may be. All it is cultivating energy. So it's cultivating the rise of the arousal of the feminine gradually. But see, the feminine has longer staying power. So you build up that energy in the woman, and then the man can come on in with his arousal. But like James says, by the time a woman has had several orgasms, her engine is humming. And now
She's in fifth gear.
And now the man
She's in overdrive.
The man comes on board and gets to begin to bathe himself in that ecstatic energy. And of course, then the tantric practices, many of them are about the man having staying power so that he can stay there as long as she can and just be in bliss together.
Which is actually how we started out as lovers, Rebecca and I, without even knowing this coaching aspect about it, was I just naturally hung in there for as long as she did until she was finished. And then what killed me, I mean, this is amazing. I never got over it. We'd be making beautiful, sexy, wet, gnarly sex where the walls disappear, the bed disappears, we're not even in body anymore. We finally come back around, and then she will go, "Is there anything I can do for you?" I'm going, and I just roll my eyes and go, "My God, if you only knew, where are you taking me already?" "No, thanks, I'm good, thank you very much." And it's like how I am. So now when a woman comes up and hugs me and she's hugging me and asking me, "How are you?" And I go, "Well, what other answer could I possibly have when I'm being hugged? I am, at this moment, fucking perfect."
I mean, there's always room for a sandwich,
Of course.
Well, I'm a little bit peckish, actually. I don't want to be sexist or anything, But,
there's fast food, there's gourmet, there's buffet, there's all different ways to have a meal. And you can do that same way with people. But what makes it really nice is when it's conscious. When you're fully aware. I mean, we've had couples tell us, "What, you don't get drunk? You do this without being high?" Well, if you really want to experience the full Monty, that's what you do. You don't numb it. You embrace it as what it is. And then you take off into stratospheres you've never known or experienced before. Mark my fucking words.
Yeah, this is something I picked up on a long time ago. It's just so stupid, this culture of go out and get drunk and fuck something. It's the furthest thing from intimacy you could possibly have. Sex with a stranger and you're drunk, you're not even there. And then and then people end up, well, it's better than nothing. And then they end up dating. They completely don't match. She gets knocked up and then they get married. And they don't even like each other. It's like madness.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what they want. This is complete separation.
Yeah.
No love, no divinity, no joy, nothing. Just literally horror. Like your life is a horror show, and that's exactly where you're supposed to be fully controlled. In that situation, you're not doing anything. You are going to just shut up, pay your taxes, live your miserable life, and you're not in a position to question anything.
So It's the recipe for a perfect slave population.
And it's a product of a society with lowered expectations. They don't even want to know themselves or to know what getting high is on a natural level, which in the Western world, sexuality is that. It's not the answer, but it certainly is an answer.
So if you were, say, the head of the plantation, and you had a large slave population, and you wanted to keep them under control, well, first of all, you would hide the fact that the slaves are living on a plantation. You would make them think that it's your free choice. Look, you have an election. You can choose between candidate A and candidate B, and you're free. When absolutely that's not the truth. And then lower the expectations on what you can get in a relationship. So people are then already put into a narrow band of experience. So then when people have the kind of dating experience that you just described, like let's go to the bar, let's get drunk, whoop, last call, I got to grab somebody, I can't hardly see straight. That's a way also, if we're slaves on the plantation, what are they harvesting? If they're harvesting our energy, then they really do want us out of the way. Let's remove your consciousness because you're drunk, that's easy, or stoned or high or whatever. And now, while you guys are building up physical energy, because it's in the groin, it's hot, you're building up energy. Now let us just feed off of you. And then the people are going to end up feeling drained at the end because actually someone has stuck a straw into them and is sucking their energy out. And that way, you just cultivate that and keep everyone in that narrow band of lowered expectation. It keeps the slaves on the plantation.
Yeah, and that's what's funny. They want you drinking and smoking and fucking, getting those low-level pleasures where, you get off, you have a little bit of fun, you think, oh, well, life's not so bad, right? But you have no idea how bad it is because you've never felt the real joy. You've never felt love, divine union. You've just never had it, not with God, not within yourself, not with a partner. It's not even in your reality. So getting a little drunk and, getting a blowjob, that's as good as it gets.
Look at the advertising of almost every product they sell across the board. So much of it comes across with using sex as a tool to sell it. Beautiful women and sexy innuendo and all this. With almost every product you can find, from eating to buying a car to what you wear to what you listen to what fucking phone you own. It's all about sex. They are selling sex, but not conscious sex. And like I said, don't be afraid here, you guys, if you think you can't have sex at all without establishing a huge, long tantric awareness. Tantra is like yoga. It teaches itself by practicing it. So you don't have to know it all in the beginning, and you don't have to know it all to have fun sex. Just be respectful and open and honest about your approach to somebody. Go, I'm new at this, I like you, let's see if we like getting together, and that's fine. But communicate and be honest and be sincere, and you really can't go wrong that often.
Yeah.
And that's why I can have many, many friends in town, which I don't have sex with, but people question, they don't know, because everybody knows that I'm in love with Rebecca also. Everyone, including any woman that is close with me, that I'm intimate with on some level or another, or just talk to. Nobody doesn't know that I don't have an intimate, primary, loving, in love, beautiful relationship with someone that nobody will ever come in between. They can be added to, but they're not going to come in between.
And that's super, super powerful, and that
works for me.
Yeah, it's amazing. But I think that, again, the people are trained to be in this low frequency, fear-based state. It's out of most people's reality that they could get to a place of love with themselves and with a partner where they could drop the jealousy, drop the possessiveness, and go out and have other sexual adventures, and it would be totally wonderful for everybody, because that's a high level of trust and love and just, you know what I mean? And it's not easy. It's not easy getting to that place.
And spontaneity can happen. It wasn't but a few weeks ago that spontaneously I ended up having a woman sweep overnight here that I'd only met twice, seen around. Rebecca was away in another part of the country on an overnighter, and this wasn't planned. it all just developed point after point. And when she came home, I told her this exciting time that I had, that I just met this, not just met, but just connected deeper with this woman who I'd known briefly, but we made a great connection. And she had a smile on her face, said, "Did you have time? Are you in love?" And I wasn't like, "You bum, you fucker." And she didn't get jealous and possessive. She genuinely was wanting to see how I felt and was it good for me. And that's why we can do this. And
I would say that she slept over, but you all didn't have sex.
We didn't have.
Because that would have required an agreement from us.
Yeah, we do allow for a spontaneity to happen, but if we have any opportunity at all to discuss it, we do. We were intimate, and we were a little physically intimate, but we didn't have sex, and I didn't put her in our bed when we finally went to sleep. It wasn't in our bed. And Rebecca even asked me, "Did you do that?" I go, "No, I would never put anyone in our bed without her being there or without her permission."
And so these are the kind of levels that are possible through intimacy. And
honest intimacy.
Yes, intimacy, means into me see. So James and I know each other very well. We see into each other very well. We have years of cultivating trust and confidence with one another.
While enjoying other lovers.
And so, I wouldn't recommend it for people right off the bat, because you first of all have to work on yourself, know who you are, work on your shadow, liberate yourself as much as you can. Then you work on that with a partner, and then that takes you to higher heights.
Who has the same outlook as you, is willing to learn, go along, practice, and become what we're talking about together, which is possible as long as you communicate it openly.
And then the sky's the limit, because what is our capacity to love? We have an infinite capacity to love. It's just that we live in a society that is really channeling us into the minimal expressions of that.
Yeah, I think this is really one of the biggest lies that exist, is that there's a limit to how much you can love, and that's it. And so this concept of, you could have a main lover and other lovers and everyone could just love everyone, it doesn't exist. People make fun of this. Yeah, people think, only you got to be a hippie to do that. It's just not even taken seriously that you could openly, genuinely love one woman if you're a man, and then love another one, and then I'll love another one. And when and that's what the whole point of this all is that you can have complete love for all beings, right? And yet it's almost,
What does the church say when the man gives the woman to another man who stands in front of another man representing the big man in the sky? You will forsake all other love. Yeah. Why the fuck does that bother them? Who the fuck are they? Why would they care if I love more than one woman? It's control, and it's threat of action, or the threat of action, or fear. You don't do this, you're going to get fucked for eternity. I mean, how dastardly is that? That's exactly why it was so easy to turn off from it, because they threaten you for not believing in their shit. And I can't go there, personally.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. Right. And what you said before is true in almost everything in life. Whatever we're told is the exact opposite of what is true and just and good and divine.
Right.
Well, let's always look at it from the perspective of the plantation owner. He wants to keep the slaves on the plantation. And I found that by me looking at it through that lens, it's very easy to discern, this is a dominator culture. It's based on control. Remember Neo in the Matrix? Morpheus tells him, "You were born a slave, Neo, and you are serving a system of control." That's the point. So if we recognize, we're living in the Matrix, then we can become Neo. We can become the one. I don't recommend personally all the high firepower and armaments that they used in the movie.
Yeah, that was a little ridiculous.
But because it is through love. That is the way that they know that since we have an infinite capacity to love, they've got to sabotage our even beginning to feel that. Because once we are powered by love, then we can't be controlled, because we'll stand in our own divine right to be a god or a goddess. We won't need them, and they know that. So that's called a slave rebellion, which the movie The Matrix was about that, right? That the real humans were going to remain free and they were willing to fight to the death. Well, I'm saying let's love to infinity. We don't have to fight them to the death. We just have to allow our hearts to open first to ourselves, our own divine natures. Then we've got enough to stand on our own 2 feet, to stand in front of another, to open our hearts to another, to love as far as we go with another, and then we can just keep doing that.
We have the capacity. I mean, if we look at where we're from, we are a manifestation of the universe that has to be born from some aspect of a thing we call desire. Otherwise, there would not be a physical anything. There's some kind of desire in the universe that lends itself to being able to manifest into a physical realm. We are part of that realm. We are microcosm of the universe itself. And if we look at the unlimited potential we have to experience pleasure from sound, music, tasting, food, color, we have eyes, we have fingers, we have touch, we have nerves, we have brains, we have hearts, we have consciousness, all this potential. And we have sex organs. We can do everything. The whole spectrum of existence. To me, if we can't figure out why the fuck we're here, don't worry about it. Just know that we're here to have fun, because we are the instrument to enjoy. So enjoy and do it consciously to really, really enjoy. Instead of getting your nuts off on a drunk broad behind the backseat behind the bar, you're not going to remember tomorrow. Get her number, call her, go over, talk with her, have dinner, cook for her, sit down, talk about what your desires are. And if she resonates and you make eye contact and you line up your whole thing together, you're going to have an experience that doesn't need to be marriage, doesn't need to be monogamous, but it will be genuine and it'll be more pleasurable than anything you've ever experienced. That's my experience.
Well said.
And there's nothing like, when you have a loving partner like that who's both on the same page with you as that, and spontaneous things can happen, there's nothing like, laying down there and being given head by a woman who's had the hots for you forever, and another woman there letting you feel her tits, and then your partner walks in and kisses you while you're getting off by this woman giving you head. That's, there's nothing can top that.
Speaking from personal experience.
Speaking from personal experience only. I can't speak for anyone else. But, it's not our intention to achieve those kind of things, but what it does simply is that it opens our lives to experiences to happen. We have a few lovers that are scattered around the world, and they show up once in a while, and we really, really, really enjoy gourmet life.
And that's the opposite of the society of lowered expectations. Yeah. That's the epitome of divine ecstasy. We are divine beings who have an infinite capacity for pleasure. Most religions have some aspect that says, no, actually, you're here to suffer. And if you suffer enough, it'll buy your ticket to heaven and you can enjoy it later.
And they're all patriarchal also. We don't know a major religion that isn't patriarchal. In other words, the woman is the criminal here, the feminine. How dastardly is that? No thanks.
All right, we're going to have to cut it off there because this was a long one. But check back in a few days for part number 2. See you then.